When a genius doctor always gets girls as his patients. Let's see how peaceful
Several
and
hundred
kind
years
this can
ago,
be.
there was a war between all of the humans and monsters in the world. The war lasted for over 100 years, and
Damn.
all of them fought for so long
some
that
Avatar
at
type
the end
ish.
of it, they don't even remember what they were fighting for. So, when the war finally ended, they decide that since they don't even know the reason they were fighting, they should just live in peace instead. And just like that, peace between humans and monsters is established.
I would have kept fighting personally because I'm just not gonna lose. But that's one thing about me. My problem is like I just don't lose, and that's my biggest L in my life, not being able to lose. Hey, I'm live on Twitch every single Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Link is in the description. I better see you there.
Several years later, a human, Dr. Glenn Litbait, and his half-snake assistant, Safin
Dr. Glenn Litbait. That's a crazy ass name.
Titnakes are two doctors specializing in treating monsters.
I got Wendy's
Both of
burger
them
and
are
chicken nuggets.
extremely proficient doctors. However, Dr. Glenn is a bit too serious in his profession. The man
He's a
doesn't care
doctor. What do you mean he's too serious? He's in charge of people's lives. He needs to be serious.
what lengths he has to go to in order to get his patients healthy, and when it comes to decency, he doesn't care at all if it heals his patients. After checking for lumps on a lady Minotaur's bare chest, despite there being a lady doctor on
He has to do what he has to do.
Glenn declares that the woman was actually sick because she was pregnant. He quite rightly shares his name with Glenn Quagmire from the Family Guy.
What?
Also, for some reason in this universe, all the male monsters are actually monsters, but the female ones are beautiful women who are...
Okay.
All the male monsters are...
First off, all right, some women might find this thing beautiful, okay? I don't know who, but some women might find this thing beautiful,
actually
right?
monsters, but the
That, it has breasts, but the only thing it has is breasts. It looks disgusting to me. 10 out of 10 would not hit.
ones are beautiful women who are only half monsters. Seems kinda sus. After finishing up with the checkups at his clinic, Glenn receives a letter from his master, Dr. Cthulhi, who tells him to visit the nearby arena so that he can check up on her patients while she is away. Cthulhi is actually a half-human, half-octopus female who is also a famous doctor in the region.
I wish you would drown.
While Glenn
'Cause
is
what are you doing
excited
half
to help out
octopus
his
now in the
master,
water?
Saphantite is not too happy. She has a crush on Glenn and doesn't like him getting attached to his female patients, and Glenn always has a lot of...
Chat. Would y'all ever hit a Centaur? Male or female? That's so disgusting. This reminds me of that one anime, Monster Musume. That anime was so weird, bro. It was like this guy had these multiple things in love with her. Like there was a spider lady, so she had the face of the spider, breasts and whatever to the torso, and then the rest of her was spider. It was so weird, bro. Oh my god! And then there was this. They had a slime. They had a bird, and then his main girl was a snake. I was disgusted. I'm not gonna lie. I had to quit. I had to quit watching it. It made me
a female
And then any normal human, he was like, no, I don't want a normal human. No, I want a bug. I want a reptilian.
patients. When the two doctors reach the arena, they find out that the patients are female athletes who compete in the tournaments in the arena. One of these patients is Tissalia Scythia, a centaur who is the sole heiress of Scythia Transportation. As Glenn proceeds to examine Tissalia, he realizes that she has nothing wrong with her and is perfectly fine. Glenn gives her to leave and proceeds to check his other patients.
Okay.
After the whole day's work is done, however, just as they are leaving, Glenn is confronted by two of Tissalia's attendants. Kay and Lorna approach Glenn concerned. They tell them that there must surely be something wrong with Tissalia since she hadn't won a single match in the arena for the last month now.
She's mid! She fell off! What do you mean there's something wrong with her? She's ass. She's washed. What are they talking about?
They explain that she was extremely talented and also worked very hard, so it was off for her to be losing so many matches. If there is one thing that never changes, it's Glenn's verdict, and he is perfectly sure that Tissalia is all right. However, in order to reevaluate his conclusion, he goes to one of her matches. Tasalia loses one again to a Catwoman, and this time Glenn realizes what the issue was. The doctor never misses, except for the fact that he missed it during the exam, but
What?
other than that, he never misses. That evening, as Tasalia is practicing for the next match, Glenn and two attendants approach her and apprehend her. With Saphentite restraining the princess,
Was that necessary? No. Was that necessary? I just felt like that wasn't needed at all. It does make for a thumbnail, but I just don't feel like that was needed at all.
Centaur in a really uncomfortable and inappropriate way, Glenn manages to put on some iron hooves onto Tasalia's feet. She had been very full of her royal heritage and had refrained from using iron hooves, which is why her balance was off and she was losing the match. Tasalia is pretty angry at them for interfering, but immediately the next
I didn't look angry. Does this look like the face of anger to y'all?
Tasalia is pretty angry at them for interfering, but immediately the next day she wins a match at the stadium after 10 consecutive defeats.
Damn!
You all
10
are
L's in a
probably
row,
wondering how
bro.
a snake monster and a regular human became friends and colleagues. It turns out that during the war, Saphentite was brought into Glenn's family as a hostage so that her family wouldn't go back on the deal they had made with the humans.
Aw, they're childhood friends, and she fell for him. Aw, that's disgusting. Stay with your own race, buddy.
During this time, the two became really good friends.
No
until, when
mixed
the war was
breeds
over,
around here.
She was returned back to her home. Later, by fortune or by luck, the two ended up going to the same college of medicine and reconnected once more.
Me personally, I think we should have segregated colleges. Because if I ever saw something like that in my college classroom, I wouldn't be able to work. I'd be too disgusted. I could never work in the same vicinity as something like that. Okay.
One day, Dr. Glenn
You know that burger's nasty. I'm not eating the burger. I'm eating nuggets. I took one bite and I called it a quits. I'm not eating nothing that pink. That's a little too pink for me. I like my pink a little bit darker than clitoris.
and Dr. Saphentite go shopping on the Marrow Waterways, built by the dragon lady Scotty Dragonfelt. The whole city is basically a copy of Venice and is built over a large body of water. They have to travel is basically a copy of Venice and is built
My meat curtains in chat. Would y'all hit? I'm not asking the men in chat. I'm asking the meat curtains. Too many men are responding.
over a large body of water. They have to travel through the town in boats, and the two do exactly that. Saphentite, who is clearly in love with Glenn, is very happy that they came together for shopping. But for Glenn, this is nothing but a short trip to get some supplies.
Facts. This is a
As
waste
the
of
two
time.
get to the shop, right outside, a mermaid lady starts calling them a cute couple and calls them towards her.
Aw, that's disgusting. Mixed breeds.
Saphentite is excited by her calling them lovers and forces Glenn to take her to the mermaid. The mermaid, Lulala, turns out to be a singer who sings for lovers and people who pay her to,
Ew.
but she emphasizes lovers. Clearly, she was a better businessman. Glenn, realizing something wrong, requests a song but only pays her 2 copper coins instead of 3, offering her a free checkup instead of the 3rd copper coin. Just as Glenn predicted, the
I would never trust something that has gills on their belly. Imagine you're just trying to imagine that's your girl. You're trying to rub her, like give her a massage on the side and you just start feeling gills. I'm killing it and I'm eating it. I promise you.
girl cannot complete the entire song and starts coughing midway through. What a scam. However, it turns out that she had some sort of disease. Glenn diagnoses her and notices blisters inside her mouth. Glenn then proceeds to check the mermaid's gills in the lewdest way possible.
Yo, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Come on. Come on. Are we serious? Are we serious? Ain't no way, bro. Because my imagination's I'm thinking this is really a fish. Imagine someone brings you a catfish and they just start playing and they get.
Is that really the way? Isn't there supposed to be a piece of equipment for this?
Why are you slowing it
Anyways,
down?
He finds out that Lulala was spending too much time outside of water, which is why she had been suffering from inflammation of her gills and was unable to outside of water, which is why she had been suffering from inflammation.
Are we serious? No. What the flip? Okay. What the flip? Are we serious right now?
Inflammation of her gills and was unable to perform better outside of water. Lulala tells them that since her father had gone missing, she was forced to work 12 hours a day and thus was unable to spend much time in the water.
Womp womp.
Just then, a human boy falls into the river, and midway through their conversation, Lulala jumps in to save the kid. By the time she comes out with the kid, she is so tired.
If I was the kid, I promise you, I think I would tell her I'd rather die than be saved by something like you.
The doctors give the kid CPR. Lulala slips into the water once more. However, she begins drowning instead. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
How you a fish drowning?
A mermaid starts drowning in water. Upon realizing
that
this,
don't even make
Glenn
sense.
Jumps into the water to save Lulala, kissing her to force air into her body, making her gills work again. The two of them are then rescued by
I can't look at her
Saphantite,
gills
who
the
uses her
same.
long tail to pull them out of the water.
I can't look at her gills the same. Oh my god, they just made me feel uncomfortable about gills.
Some days later, it turns out that Lulala is just fine now. She has even gotten a job in the city council hall in Mara Waterways and gets to sing there every day.
I'll never look
earning
at
her
fish the
more than
same.
enough money for her family.
I'll never look at fish the
After
same.
all the gill testing
I'm
that Glenn
scarred.
had done, Lulala appears to have developed a crush on the doctor. There certainly is magic in his hands. Somewhere in Mara Waterways, a woman is seen chasing some bandits.
Her breasts
she
are
chases
just
the men
stiff.
around the streets when suddenly she gets ambushed.
Is that Dobby?
The next day, after
Transgender
Glenn and
Dobby?
Saphantite finish treating a slime girl who looks a bit too attractive for a slime, they are
What do you mean too attractive for a
Saphantite finish
slime,
treating a
bro?
slime girl who looks
I'm convinced you'll hit anything that has breasts. I'm convinced if it has breasts, you just go right in. She looks like a Ben 10 alien.
a bit too attractive for a slime. They are approached by Lady Scotty and her boyfriend, Kunai Zinao. Scotty is a half-dragon, half-human girl, while her servant, according to her, is a human golem made from several hundred parts of humans mixed together.
She's a monster. That's what we call them where I come from. You see something like that, they're a monster.
She was basically a Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, see, I was right.
Scotty spoke in a real low voice, and so Kunai spoke for her. Basically, the fight that happened last night was between Kunai and some bandits.
Where
And
your
during
arm
this
at?
fight, she had lost an arm. Scotty wanted the doctors to find her arm and attach it back together. Immediately, when Scotty leaves, Kunai refuses Glenn's help. She has had a fair share of doctors in her life who seem to have given her plenty of bad memories, and thus she hates doctors in general.
What do you mean you want me to find your arm? Nigga, find that shit yourself. I am a doctor. Not a magician, bro. Find your own arm, the fuck?
Casually disregarding the fact that Saphantite was a doctor too, she tells Glenn to stay away from her and that she will look for her hands on her own. Once again, as Kunai walks the streets, she realizes that the same bandits who had ambushed her were also there and decides to follow them. In an absolute facepalm subreddit postable moment, she gets ambushed once more, this time losing a leg instead. Glenn, being the committed doctor he is, goes out looking for Kunai's arm when he runs into Tasalia, who finds Kunai's leg.
Where your
Glenn
leg
starts
at?
examining the leg and
Imagine getting a lick ran on you for your leg, bro. How you get your leg taken?
realizes that the stitches that were made in the leg were actually made by amateurs. Glenn thinks that perhaps the people who had made her were not even doctors at all. He then heads further into town where he runs into
The toe
Lulala,
was just
who has
moving?
Kunai's arm. She hands the arm to the doctor and tells him that perhaps he could use the hand and leg that he had acquired to find its owners.
What the hell is at the bottom? What the hell are these? Are these fins? Why does she look like part
Elsewhere,
frog?
Kunai drags herself to a nearby wall. She's a bit too frustrated for losing both her leg and her arm. However, that was never her issue. Her main problem was that she could still hear the voices of all the people whose body parts were used to create her.
Ugh.
Glenn finds her struggling and, despite her protest, insists that he wants to reattach her parts.
Yo, look at this
Her
fucking
struggle-
scene, bro. No arm, no leg.
And, despite her protests, insists that he wants to reattach her parts.
The way
The
this is going, I'm surprised she didn't lose part of her breast.
Doctor puts on his glasses and not only stitches back her body parts, but also attaches all of the blood vessels properly throughout her body, explaining to her that this was probably causing the voices in her head since she didn't feel the body parts as her own. Like every other patient till now, Kunai also gets suspiciously aroused while she gets her treatment from the doctor.
I know for a fact doctors don't be pulling like this. I know for a fact. As a certified doctor, this has never happened to me. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I've done millions of surgeries. Ain't none of them was like, oh my God, thank you, doc.
After
No, they wake up high as hell because we had to put them under anesthesia. Like,
Glenn is finished, which, well, why wouldn't he be? Kunai thanks him despite her hate for doctors, believing that Glenn is something different. Back at the clinic, one of Saphantite's drinking buddies finds a harpy egg and leaves it with her. Saphantite tries to pull and prank and tell the doctor that she was pregnant, but Glenn is too hard to fool when it comes to any form of medical information. Saphantite reveals that she was actually hiding an abandoned harpy egg that was given by one of her friends. Her friend had told her that she had found the egg abandoned in the street.
eat it!
Glenn then
Eat
tries
it!
to examine the egg and finds that it was actually an unfertilized egg. Just then, several
Eat
bandits
it!
approach the clinic and attack it directly from the main door. All of the bandits are regular humans, and thus it doesn't really take much for Saphantite to make quick work of the ones that had attacked them.
Man.
When more bandits start arriving, the two doctors quickly rush outside
What are they doing pressing a doctor? Is it because they want the egg?
and run into Kunai. She explains that the bandits were actually slavers who had been capturing harpy
Oh.
birds and making them lay eggs and selling those eggs to the highest and filthiest bidders on the black market.
Eat it!
The doctors ask for the city council's protection, but everyone is busy with their mission of taking down the slavers at the moment, so they have no choice but to join Kunai on the mission. Scotty and
That egg would have been nice and freshly cooked before anyone could say a word about it, man.
Lala also join them on the waterways. Lulala had been given the job in the city council so she could help out undercover, and this was her first ever mission. Suddenly, they are attacked by archers, but fortunately for them, Tissalia was nearby and she fights them off. As Kunai and Tissalia deal with the bandits on the outside, the doctors rush in alongside Scotty and find the harpies that were captured by the bandits.
No, not
All
the
of them seem
harpies.
to be fine. However, one of the harpies has an impacted egg from stress. Scotty and Saphantite
Since it's impacted and it's not gonna be no good, eat it!
decide that Glenn should work on the harpy to save her while they fight
Eat
off
it!
any approaching bandits.
Eat the egg!
Glenn immediately goes to work.
I do not want to see a man spreading bird legs, bro. I don't
Help.
care what it looks. Why do they always have the blush on their face no
The
matter
Very
what?
uncomfortable harpy.
That is not.
Glenn immediately goes to work and helps
What
the
is Glenn
really
doing to her?
uncomfortable harpy try and deliver the egg without it causing any complications.
Glenn, what are you doing? Bro, that Glenn was giving strokes. I don't care what nobody says, bro.
As Saphantite fights off the approaching bandits, she remembers the time back when they were children and how her family had actually chosen her as a hostage so that she could assassinate Glenn's entire family if the deal went wrong with the humans.
And that same person you were supposed to assassinate is putting in strokes right now. Why is he moving like this?
Just as the egg is delivered safe and sound, Saphantite gets struck by a knife dipped in poison and she passes out mid-battle.
Wait, chat. Do y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? Oh, I think I hear it. Womp womp. Like what? And?
Saphantite awakens soon, however, as the slavers didn't use poison strong enough for a literal monster. For bandits living in a world of monsters, they were a little too unprepared for their own job. Glenn explains the slavers were arrested and the harpy laid her egg safely. After hearing that everything had worked out for the better,
the beautiful world of
Saphantite
birth.
decides to admit the truth to Glenn, but in return, Glenn reveals that he actually knew already about Saphantite's plan, as even his family had done some really intense background research about her when she had arrived at their place. Despite knowing that she was there to kill them, Glenn had decided to be her friend. This makes Saphantite so happy that she rips open her clothes and attempts to seduce the doctor.
That is not seducing. Nigga, that is a word that starts with an R, bro. That is not seduction. Trust me. That is not seduction, man.
But before she could go on further and turn this into a demonetized video, she passes out.
Thank God, because she was about to commit a crime.
Once again, Dr. Cthulhi asks her two apprentices to go ahead and visit the Harpies town to provide medical attention to the locals there. Tasalia, who appears to have decided on marrying Glenn, offers her help to transport them
What?
to the village herself.
Decide on marrying. Yo, Glenn, can you find yourself a human? Where's the other humans at? Why are you only surrounded by these creatures? Where are the people? Come on, Glenn.
As she drags their carriage through the mountains, a rock slide suddenly occurs. Kay and Lorna jump in to save their mistress, and Kay ends up injuring herself.
R.I.P.
Glenn quickly comes out to give
Rip
some medical
bozo.
attention, but Kay cannot walk at all. Fortunately, some male harpies arrive just in time and take Kay to their village by air, while the rest of the group gets there as well. At the village, the super doctor Glenn gets to check the injury properly and finds out that it's only a minor sprain that will go away after a few days of rest. At the village, the super doctor Glenn gets to check the injury
So if he's checking the left knee, why does it look like he's checking her cooch? Like I know I'm not the problem here, bruh. I know I'm not.
Properly and finds out that it's only a minor sprain that will go away after a few days of rest. After treating the centaur, Glenn still doesn't get any rest. Pretty much every single person in the village has one issue or another.
And let me guess, he doesn't take no forms of pay either. He's just doing it out of the kindness of his heart. Glenn, how do your bills get paid? Do you have bills? How do you live?
And shows up at the temporary clinic that they established there. After finishing the day's checkups,
They always depict Doctor in anime as like happy people. Like, oh my god, I'm glad to be doing my job. I know for a fact you're stressed and tired. You've been going at it for 15 hours. Stop it. Add some depression to these doctors in anime, please.
Glenn goes out for some fresh air and meets up with Lorna, who seems a bit out of place. She tells him that she was there with Tasalia, but her mistress is nowhere near. Due to Kay's injury, she has become extremely distracted and had also almost ruined Tasalia's negotiations to employ the Harpies as air couriers. Worried about her attendant, Tasalia goes to Glenn and asks him to examine Lorna. Glenn struggles to know where to start as
Why?
Glenn and asks him to examine Lorna.
Why does she need to be blindfolded? I have never in my life been blindfolded when I went to a checkup. What is she being blindfolded?
Glenn struggles to know where to start, as Lorna doesn't have any physical ailments and rather suffers from a psychological issue. He discusses the issue with Saphantite, who tells him that perhaps Lorna has a domination complex and needs to be controlled so that she feels safe and comfortable. In an attempt to heal the centaur, Glenn then pulls out a trick straight from one of the felony's books of assault, tying her up from head to toe and blindfolding her as well.
So this is the doctor's prescription. This is what the doctor prescribed her. She's psychologically in trouble because she doesn't feel like she's being dominated enough. So she needs to be tied and blindfolded.
Surprisingly, Lorna immediately feels better as she is more able to focus on her job, though
She just might be horny. I think at this point that's what it is. I think she might just be horny.
Glenn privately thinks Lorna might simply enjoy being tied up. As thanks, Kay and Lorna try to seduce Glenn together. The two ladies tell Glenn that their mistress wished to marry him, and if she did so, they were also his property.
Why are you blushing, bro? They have horse cooch. They have 4 legs and hooves. What are you blushing for? Breast, mouth, there's other parts. Yeah, I get it. There's other parts, and guess what? While you're getting head, you know what you're gonna see? Horseback! You're gonna see horseback! You're gonna try to reach for the hips, and then you realize, oh, I'm petting a horse right now.
The two of them forget all boundaries and try pressuring Glenn into sleeping with them, but Glenn is quick to refuse. Kay and Lorna, however, still hope Glenn becomes their master as well one day.
What?
Thanks for watching part 1.
Okay, bro. Yeah, watching part 1. There is no part 2 out of me. There's no part 2 out of me, bro. I can't do it.